All right, I'm going to get a new 30-minute game going. Before we get started with the narration, I'm going to take a moment to shout out my number one fan, Midna the Corgi, my friend's dog who I learned recently watches every single one of my games, sitting on the couch, absorbing the chess content. So, shout out to Midna. Thank you for being my number one fan. Good dog. Today we've got the black pieces. Our opponent very kindly giving me the time to make my announcement about my friend's dog. Maybe not as committed to this game as I am. There we go. 1e4, c6. Taking their time, their 20 candidate moves in the opening, so it's good to take your time and proceed thoughtfully. We get the caro-kann. Our opponent runs the advanced variation, my personal favorite against the caro. So let's see how they proceed from here. My preferred move here is knight to c3, and then harassing the bishop. We don't get that, unfortunately. Normally, I like to get my knight out here or over to e7 in order to guard the light squared bishop. That's simply not possible at this juncture. So we will take, and then close up our center. Next, knight to d7, permitting pawn to c5. Looks pretty good to me. They get their knight out. We'll get ours in turn. The knight to c5 is very well defended. We'll have two attackers on that square. And we will have our knight in the way, blocking any checks from our opponent's queen, which is a nice thing to have. This can be a nasty sort of forcing check, so you want to proceed thoughtfully there. Let's go ahead and push c5. If they want to play c3, that's great. If not, I guess we can't take here. They push c4. Very interesting. I'm excited to see how this plays out. So I think probably the move is we take here. I wonder if it's, well, that's interesting. Something to think about. So they potentially have takes on d5, and then do we have a way to reinforce that square? Two ways we could reinforce d5, our knight to e7 or knight to b6. I wonder too if we have the option of simply taking here. Let's highlight our candidate moves. We want to do something about the d5 pawn because it's in danger of being captured. I guess we also have queen out to b6, ignoring this threat, and then staring down this b2 pawn. And that adds an attacker to this weakly defended d4 square. And that looks pretty good to me. So this I like the most. Knight out to e7 does add a defender to d5, but it blocks our dark squared bishop from guarding the square. And I guess we have our knight in the way. So that seems like it could be fine. Maybe we do this first. If they take, we can take back, and we have a nice outpost for our knight. And if they take here, then we can run out with our knight, potentially dropping back if they do decide to check us on b5 after the fact. So let's get our knight out. I like our options here. Either way our opponent takes, doesn't look very good for them, and we still retain the option of playing queen to b6 in the near future. Bonus points about if they take here, we take, not only does it fracture their center, but it hits their queen. Okay, so they take on d5. Let's get our knight out to this nice outpost supported by this pawn on e6 here. They get their knight out. Yes, I mean, we are supported by this pawn, but I don't necessarily want to take with that pawn because it's an important piece of our defensive structure. So now if we play our knight out to, let's say, b6, adding a defender to this knight. Then if they take, we can take back. So maybe out here. Queen comes down, looks a little bit nasty. Is there another way we can add a defender to this knight? I don't think so. If we take here, they can take back. That doesn't really do anything for us. I guess if they take here, takes, and then we can take here on e5, hitting their queen. Yeah, it seems pretty good. What about if they take? So we take, they ignore that and take. Then I think, oh, well, if we take here, then they have knight takes. That doesn't look quite as good. We could push this pawn, hitting their queen. They have queen takes, rook out to c8. That's sort of a neat idea. Oh, I guess if they have queen takes, then we also have... No, we have knight to b6, but then they have queen drops further down to b5 with check, and that looks nasty. But I like this idea of pushing this pawn. That's really appealing. Takes, runs into takes here. Doesn't like quite as much. Knight to b6. It runs into queen to b5, and we don't have anything to do against that. So let's push. This is interesting. I think we'll likely see queen takes. Yep. Rook out to c8. And then not a lot of squares for their queen to go to. Now, oh gosh, now what do we do? Knight out to b4, hitting their queen and then threatening to fork right here on c2. That looks really good. And then removing sort of this target. If they wanted to trade here, I think that's unfavorable for us because we lose this nice e6 pawn. But if they just move their knight out and it's a full piece that we're up, I think that's a lot better. So let's do that. I think maybe the move is like queen back to b2 because they need to continue guarding, yeah, this c2 square. So now we're in a much better position. We can, maybe we get our dark squared bishop out just to e7 and get castled. That looks decent. And our opponent will probably get castled next. We have this check available to us, but I don't think that does anything. We can take here, but I don't think that does anything. That loses the exchange, so I don't like that. What about takes, and then we have like knight out with check. No, because then they don't have to take back that way. They can take with their knight, and that looks bad for us. Yeah, so I think develop modestly. They'll get castled, we'll get castled, and then the game continues. They kick our knight first. We could drop our knight back to c6, hitting d4. That looks decent. Nowhere else our knight can really go safely because these two squares are guarded by their queen. Let's not do that. Let's drop back. Nice improved position for our knight, I would say. And if we can get this knight out of the way, then we can take here, supported by our queen. So maybe, yeah, next move is knight to b6 because f6 is blocked by their pawn. Okay, so they're looking to maybe trap our knight. If we move out here and they push again, then we have takes. Yeah, that seems good. Open up a spot for a knight. Their queen can't come out to the checking square anymore. I don't see any checks available to our opponent at all, in fact. So I think, well, let's see. Right now, if they push, we have sort of this unpleasant choice. They push, we move out to a5. Maybe they come down to, I don't know, they could push farther even. It's supported by the queen. That looks nasty. So do we get castled first? I think we can delay castling for the time being. Let's get our knight out to b6, and then we can come up to taking on d4, shattering our opponent's advanced pawns in the center. They get castled. We can go ahead and take here. That'll put us at equality, I think. And if they want to take, then we have take, and then we're forking. Oh, we're hitting a number of pieces if we do that. So yeah, let's go ahead and take this piece. And actually, I think things start to look really bad for our opponent. They take. We will take back with their queen. I think this doesn't look very good because we're forking these two pieces. Their bishop is hanging. Maybe queen out to e1 is the move. They play their knight out, hitting our queen. So we have the option here. We can pick up this piece, but is their knight threatening to go anywhere? Nasty. They have knight to c7 check, which our rook is guarding. Knight out to a7. I'm happy to trade a pawn for a piece. This is guarded as well. That's a check, and then we trade, and then queen comes back down. So I think we just pick up this piece. I mean, I don't see why not. I guess they have rook out. That looks like it could be dangerous if they pull their rook out. Do need to move our queen out of the way. We could just take on e5 and hitting their knight that way. Takes. Interesting position. So I think maybe safer. Yeah, because if queen takes, then they have rook out to d1, and then we don't have a ton of good squares to go to. So we could drop back to like g5, but then they have like knight down here takes, and then rook takes on d6. Well, then we have queen takes. Okay, I think we get the piece. We get the piece, and if they bring the rook out, we drop back to d5. Sorry, g5 is where we will drop back to. Queen comes out to e4. So this is an idea that I didn't see, but what is the idea? What are they trying to accomplish here? That comes down with check. That doesn't do anything for them. Knight comes down here. That doesn't do anything. Queen could take on b7, perhaps. We could drop our queen back here to both guard that square and hit their knight, which is also hanging. We could get castled here because now they have, well, I guess they don't have this check available to them. That's no good. Yeah, maybe we drop our queen back and play more conservatively now that we're up a piece. Queen down to d7, maybe knight takes on a7. And then like our knight comes up to d5, guarding that way. Yeah, let's drop our queen back. Because I don't like the looks of queen takes on b7. All right. And I would love to get castled soon. But if our opponent is going to continue to press their attack, which they have every right to do, they have a potentially a strong attack here. I just want to play carefully. But we are up a piece. We have both of the bishops. Okay, let's take a look at this as well. So if we take here on b5, is our opponent threatening anything? They have queen comes down to b7. We get castled, and then they take our bishop. Up. Nope, our opponent resigns. Okay, cool. I'll take that. Quick game today. No complaints. That puts us back over 1100. Let's take a look at the review. Yeah. Classic caro-kann. Nothing too crazy here. F3 is best. Yep. D7 is good. Pushing immediately is a little bit stronger, I guess. But I'm glad we landed on that at the right time. C4 is best. That's really interesting. Glad we landed on knight to e7 to guard that d5 pawn. They take, we take. C3 is a mistake here, and I wonder what the idea is. Oof. That looks pretty nasty. Yeah, so what's the idea here? I want to look at that again. Knight to b4, which I think we landed on after a move or so. C3, C4, yeah, that was a mess. We did land on knight to b4 after a moment, but not quickly enough. That was the immediate idea. So I did identify that if they took here, this would be bad for us. But I want to see what the rest of the sequence is. They go back to e4. Also a good spot for the queen. Probably a little bit better than b1, which is what they landed on a couple moves later, because they do need to guard this c2 square. C takes. I guess they can't. Oh yeah, they can't take back with their queen because then we fork their king and their queen. Brutal. And if they take back with their knight, I don't know what the idea is there. Maybe we get our other knight out and it's just sort of tactics to follow. So they drop their knight back to e2. We hit their queen. And here we are able to execute. We're not able to hit a fork, but we are able to force them to give up castling rights. I feel like we're a little overextended here, but the engine seems to like it. I don't know if I could play as well in this position as the engine seems to think that I could. That's an interesting idea. Okay, c4 is a miss. They take, we scare off their queen. These are inaccuracies. Now b4 is an inaccuracy somehow. Yeah, it's fine. b1 is good. Still, yeah, e4 would have been a little bit better. Slightly more active outpost for their queen. We go ahead and get castled as quickly as possible. Yeah, and then we open up this attack on their pawn. Castling was a mistake. Getting their queen back out was the right move. Yeah, and we find the great move. Knight takes on d4, winning their pawn. And then we have this nasty-looking move. Queen takes on d4. Yeah, queen to e1, which I think identified was best here. This simply drops their bishop, which we pick up. Queen to e4. Queen to d7 is good. Rook f to d1, and then I wonder, yeah, the follow-up is we take their knight, and we just trade a whole bunch of pieces. And black has still a substantial advantage here. We're up 2 minor pieces. Okay, cool. Yeah, so sort of a mid-game blunder by our opponent, allowing us to win this pawn and fork a number of their pieces. They give up the bishop, and then they give up a knight, and they resign pretty quickly after that. Good game. I think I'll call it here. Feels good to be over 1100 again. Have a good one, everyone.